Hey guys, Levelcap here, and today we're taking another look at For Honor's single player. In my last video about the single player, I made a general overview about it, some of the missions, characters you can play. This time, I want to talk about the game's hardest difficulty mode. This difficulty strips away the game's fighting user interface, leaving you with only the basic target indicator and objective markers. If you want to know more about the game, be sure to check the link in the description. Now, For Honor's combat user interface serves its purpose well, especially for new players. It gives you just enough information to time your attacks and counter well without holding your hand. But something I didn't realize until I tried the game on its hardest difficulty mode is that the enemy animations do the same thing. To a novice player, enemy attacks might seem random, but the more you play, the more you start to see the patterns of attack. The animations are the key to learning that process. When an enemy is about to swing on you with a heavy attack, it's fairly obvious based on their physical stance. Much like in real life, understanding what somebody might be doing in a melee combat situation or any sort of normal fighting situation, you can read a lot about it based on their physical stance. Later in the game, the bosses build on the complexity of those attack patterns with unique attacks and combos. But through it all, a diligent player will learn to read the enemies like a book. Now, without question, paying attention to the physical posture is a big aspect of learning this combat stance, and the game does a really good job of making the stances obvious enough to understand what direction the attacks might be coming from. But they also give unblockable attacks a little bit of like a yellow highlight. You might see a yellow glint right before the attack, which lets you know that, hey, you might need to dodge on this one. And while taking on multiple enemies without the fight UI can be extremely challenging, it is still doable. Playing through For Honor on some of the lower difficulty modes is certainly fun and challenging, but the hardest difficulty mode adds a sense of realism and immersion that none of the other modes offer, and it's really a different experience. You feel more connected to your character, and the enemies feel more real without the UI prompts constantly feeding you information about them. All of this is to say that I think Ubisoft have really gone for a compelling gameplay experience that offers a lot of challenge without excluding inexperienced players. Where I think most of games these days use difficulty modes in a way that don't really change how you play, For Honor's hardest difficulty totally changes the feel of the game, and it also changes the things you need to pay attention to. It almost feels like the game's true difficulty mode, where the gloves come off and the game assumes you can handle yourself. I'm really curious and frankly excited to see if this hardest difficulty mode will be an option for multiplayer. Playing against other people, especially in 2v2 mode, offers a level of challenge that AI enemies probably can't. Adding the hardest difficulty rule set to the mix will really enhance the immersion of going toe-to-toe with a competent opponent. As for what I'd like Ubisoft to change before the beta, I can't say that there's really all that much. The guard break system could be a little bit clearer to understand, and the only other thing is the target switching can be a little bit finicky at times. But this is a work in progress version of the game, and the devs still have a lot of work to do before the final launch. We brought all our thoughts and ideas of the game up with the devs at the event, and they were really interested in our feedback, so hopefully some of it makes its way into the game. Ubisoft already did a bunch of tweaks and changes to the game since the alpha, so there's a good chance it's going to be even more polished before release. Now, For Honor's combo system was surprisingly deep. Each character has a list of combos that can chain together for different kinds of attacks. A lot of melee games these days just seem to have a light and heavy combo that works with one button. For Honor gets much deeper, with multiple attacks rolled into each combo. I'm pretty sure good players will be able to chain their attacks into continuous combo moves that tear through even the high-level enemies like clockwork. The healing mechanics in For Honor are also really rewarding. Knocking an enemy's health down low enough will let you execute them with the finishing move combo that restores some of your health and stamina. Being able to fight through a horde of enemies knowing you can get some health back along the way makes getting good combos and finishers more satisfying. It focuses the game away from things that break the flow of the gameplay, like using healing items mid-combat, and makes it just about the actual combat. Overall, I really have to say that I am enjoying For Honor, especially the single player on its hardest difficulty is very fun and challenging, and the multiplayer really sets this melee combat game apart from the crowd. I'm looking forward to playing more in the beta, and if you're at all curious about this game, I highly recommend checking that out. Again, there is a link in the video description. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Levelcap, signing off.
So that's a no. Valhalla.